We all know it. We all saw it. Michigan steamrolled Penn State and their run defense last week. And now that Penn State run defense has to face another really good offensive line and one of the very best running backs in the Big Ten. Speaking of the Big Ten, it's a great time to subscribe here to Big Ten 10. Big Ten content every single day. Always crush that like button. All right, like I said in the intro, Penn State got absolutely steamrolled. And now you got to come back in a whiteout atmosphere. You got to face one of the best offensive lines in the conference, an offensive line that can push people around up front, and you got to face one of the very best running backs in the conference. This is going to be another big challenge for Penn State. Penn State's got to toughen up because, man, the interior on both offense and defense is just not there. The toughness, the physicality. You face teams like a Michigan, like an Illinois, which they won't face, I don't think, this year, but Minnesota. This is a team that can push you around. This is a team that can get physical. Can Penn State push back? I think that's the big question. I really believe Minnesota's going to have a good day on their offensive line and the running game. Because I think the answer for me right now to that question is I think Minnesota can push them around. I think Minnesota can have a really good day. I just don't know if Penn State has the horses up front to go head-to-head and nose-to-nose with what Minnesota has on their offensive line. Now, Minnesota running the ball, that's what they need to do. They need to run the ball, stop the run, create turnovers. They need to win an ugly football game. Okay, but eventually you're going to need to be able to throw the football. But here's the problem. P.J. Fleck has said in his press conferences this week, our wide receivers, our pass catchers can't get separation. That's a big problem right now. They can't get distance from the opposing defensive backs. Well, if you can't separate from Purdue and you can't separate from Illinois, Illinois has got some good defensive backs, then you're not going to separate from those Penn State defensive backs because Joey Porter Jr., Jair Brown, Kalen King, this is one of the more talented secondaries in the entire country. I don't think Minnesota is going to get a lot of big plays in this game. I think if they are going to throw the football around, it's going to be short passes, a lot of yards after catch situation because, like I said, I don't think they're going to be able to separate from what Penn State is doing defending the pass because Purdue, Illinois, I mean, Penn State is right up there. Penn State is right up there in terms of pass coverage this season. I looked at that Michigan game. I thought Penn State, now I know Michigan really moved the ball. They ran the ball. They did a really good job moving the football. But I thought early in that game, Penn State did a pretty good job covering Michigan's receivers down the field and kind of limiting big passing play opportunities. It could have been because J.J. McCarthy didn't really put it in the air in terms of deep passes. I mean, he did a few times. But I thought Penn State did a good job defending down the field and creating short yardage opportunities. I think that's going to happen with Minnesota. Penn State, keep everything in front of you. I don't think they're going to have that difficult of a time doing that. Penn State needs to run the football. We see what happens when the Nittany Lions can't run it. You see a lot of it last year in the second half of the season, and you saw it against Michigan. Sean Clifford is not a guy. He's good, but he's not great. Sean Clifford isn't a guy that can't get it to these receivers and push the ball down the field consistently. And it's a shame Parker Washington, Keandre Lambert-Smith when he's healthy, Mitchell Tinsley, Brenton Strange at tight end. They've got good weapons in the passing game. It's just, I just don't think Sean Clifford's that guy. I just don't. I think he's a lot like a Tanner Morgan. He's a lot like a Peyton Thorne where you need a complementary running game to take some pressure and create favorable matchups in the passing game. If I'm Minnesota, I think stopping the run is a big part to this. I think they can get into the backfield as well with some quarterback pressure. Okay, that's going to be a big key for Minnesota. I think this game is going to be a close game. I don't think one team is really going to push one way or the other. I think the whiteout atmosphere could kind of keep it close. Minnesota needs to try to take that away as early as they can. Really control the clock, time of possession, run the football. And then you look at the secondary. Secondary from Minnesota is pretty good. They've got a lot of interesting matchups when Penn State has the football. But I think one thing is key. Balance on offense. You see how good they looked early in the season when Nick Singleton was getting explosive plays, when Katron Allen was being the thunder to Nick Singleton's lightning and really being physical and running the football up the middle. Penn State is a good team when they can run the football. Can Minnesota defend that? I think Penn State's offensive line against Minnesota's defense. Minnesota, okay, despite what happened the last couple of weeks against Purdue, against Illinois, this is still a good defense. It's going to be a really, really, really fun matchup. Quick going back to Minnesota in that passing game for just a minute. I think the loss and the injury of Chris Autman-Bell was a lot bigger than people anticipated, because that first game against Michigan State, they threw it around to all these guys. Daniel Jackson over here, Mike Brown-Stevens, Brevin Spanford, Dylan Wright. They threw it all around to all these other guys. They say, you know, wide receiver by committee, we got it figured out. We're going to be fine. But I think that game was more about Michigan State and their lack of pass defense yet again, and much more, than it was about Minnesota. Because ever since then, Minnesota has not been able to separate, and Minnesota has not done well in the passing game. I want to hear what you guys think about this matchup. I think this is going to be a really fun matchup between the Nittany Lions and the Gophers. Comments, predictions below. I want to hear them. I want to hear them. You know I want to hear them. So comments, make sure you subscribe to Big Ten Ted. Like the video. I'm Big Ten Ted, and we will see you in the next one.